Now we're going to transition over to another very engaging individual who's pretty darn smart too. I first met Chris Grove when I was invited along for an investor tour, I would say, of Europe, of Germany and Switzerland. That was got to be in about 5 or 6 years ago. Chris is one of these individuals that really knows, like a Rob McEwen, knows how to tell a story properly. You know, you build a great story, but you also have to be able to convey it. Chris is always able to do that. He's a real strong expert on rare earths, which have been getting a lot of headlines. So, Chris, your perseverance in this space has been great and is paying off, because here we are now in 2020, heading into 2021, where it's all about regional supply chains. It's all about, if people didn't know it before, they certainly know it now, how much China has cornered the rare earth market and what the implications are for North America and for Europe, and how now that is being addressed. Commerce Resources has key projects in North America. Let me tell you a little bit about them before I bring Chris on here. Commerce Resources is an exploration and development company with a particular focus on deposits of rare earths and rare metals. It's advancing its Ashram rare earth elements and Fluorspar deposit in Nunavik, and its Blue River tantalum and niobium project in British Columbia. Companies release positive preliminary economic assessments for both projects and is working towards completing a pre-feasibility study for the Ashram deposit. Chris, are you there?
I'm there, but for some reason, oh, there I am now.
You're here.
Hey, Tony,
we can see you. It's all good. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you. Love the beard. That's awesome.
Wow, thank you. You know, the COVID had a way of, changing all of our relationships to personal grooming. That's how it affected me, and now I've grown attached to it somehow.
Yeah, it looks like you're getting ready for the Ernest Hemingway lookalike contest.
Wow, yeah, well, no, that's kind of you to say. That's not someone that's a bad, we like to be compared to Ernest Hemingway. Where are you coming to us from today, Chris? Are you out in Vancouver?
I'm coming to you from the hilly shores of North Vancouver, and from my home basement where I've been since, I don't know, the first week in March, excepting for one day. So it is what it is. And I hate to say what the president said, but anyways, in terms of working remotely, I got a phone, I got a computer, I'm good.
We can still, this has taught us all that we can persevere through almost anything as long as we can get through this one, right? And looking forward to...
It may be a while before we're back in Munich at the Edelmetallmesse with you, Tony, but we look forward to that as well.
Fantastic. Well, that was a fantastic trip, and it was great to get you to know you a bit. And I mean, even on that trip, you really did a great job, even educating me and really doing a deep dive on what the rare earth opportunity is and what's really going on in that space. So let me turn it over to you. Now you have our audience's full attention, and I'll come back on with you after you're done your presentation and ask you a few more questions.
Sounds great. I hope everyone can see the slide. It's a pleasure to present to you today our Ashram rare earth element and Fluorspar deposit in Quebec, Canada. In terms of rare earth elements, there we go. Everyone needs rare earth elements. Whether you're red or you're blue, it's the green wave that's washing over you. Whether you're Greta Thunberg or Vin Diesel, whether you're driving an electric assist bike or driving a Dodge Charger, you need rare earth elements. To be clear, the majority of value for rare earth elements is in the magnet feeds, but the largest market currently for rare earth elements are both in the service of the internal combustion engine, which would be cerium for catalytic converters and lanthanum to process oil into gasoline. In terms of what is arguably the best independent report on rare earth elements, that comes from a great guy named Ryan Castillo in Sudbury, Ontario, and that is under the name of Adamus Intelligence, and this comes directly from him. Not only do rare earths used in magnets make up the lion's share of global value today, but in the years ahead, demand for these four rare earth elements is expected to grow faster than demand for all other rare earth elements, challenging the ability of the supply side to keep up. Going forward, we project that demand will substantially exceed global production, leading to the depletion of historically accumulated inventories and shortages of these critical rare earths if significant additional sources of supply are not developed. I would recommend getting this report if you're interested. In terms of the Boogeyman Factor, China is just not as dominant as it once was. China became a net importer of rare earth elements 2 years ago. China currently buys from Myanmar, Vietnam, Australia, North Korea, and the United States. And they have made significant investments into potential new producers globally. In terms of COVID-19, there have been two effects specifically. One, very, very significant increase in the anxiety of manufacturers globally about being dependent upon sources coming from China. Second, what some analysts have called the stay-at-home index. There's been a significant increase in the purchases of home electronics and hardware that are electric and that need rare earth elements. In terms of rare earth element misinformation versus facts, is rare earth element extraction and processing harmful to the environment? No, not intrinsically. It's not any more harmful than any other commodity, but historically the Chinese production was extremely harmful. But Western regulations do not allow for that kind of extraction or processing, and even China has shut down projects recently and added costs to reduce environmental impacts. Second, is it true that rare earth element deposits are called rare because they are not often found in economic concentrations? This is true, but it's a bit misleading. It's not about tonnage and grade. It's about mineralogy, which is the difference between being economic or being a complete waste of money. Ask Robert Friedland what he would rather have in terms of a nickel deposit, a massive sulfide or a laterite. This brings us to the square peg, round hole situation. Monazite, bastnasite, xenotime. These are the dominant rare earth element minerals currently, and these haven't changed. Over 1 billion US has been spent approximately on projects with problematic mineralogy, whereas the Ashram is the most advanced rare earth element project in North America to compare favorably to the dominant Chinese producers. If you remember only one thing out of this presentation, I would encourage you to remember this slide: mineralogy and geology fundamentals. One, there are over 150 rare earth minerals, but only 4 have been commercialized. Number 2, only monazite, bastnasite, and xenotime are amenable to producing high-grade mineral concentrates. 3, the host rock type for over 80% of global production is carbonatite. And the Ashram deposit has all of these traits, along with a demonstrated ability to produce high-grade mineral concentrates at high recoveries. This is a list of the largest current producers on planet Earth. And if you look at the 4th column from the left, carbonatite, 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 and then the Ashram, carbonatite. Now, the one at the very top actually is Linus, and they are a subset of a carbonatite called a laterite. And they were able to solve their issues. Let me just say that. That brings us to, though, the Ashram, the best rare earth element deposit that is not yet in production. The Ashram is located in Nunavik, which is the northern third thereabouts of Quebec, and Nunavik is under what is called the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement, which is the most streamlined piece of legislation for the development and permitting of a mining project in Canada, if not North America. In terms of our resource, you will see that we have 1.6 million tons measured, 27.7 million tons indicated, 219.8 million tons in the inferred category, at approximately 1.8%. This puts us as over 30 times the grade of certain other projects in North America and over 100 times the size of certain other projects in North America. And this resource, which amounts to currently 249 million tons at just under 2%, doesn't include the 10,000 meters of drilling we've done in the last 8 years. In terms of our ability to produce high-grade mineral concentrates, you can see us here on this chart with the world producers, and you can also see that we can produce a mineral concentrate slightly higher grade than Linus can. In terms of the magnet feed, and if you remember the Adamus report, the greatest amount of value in rare earth elements is in the magnet feed. And in terms of that, we have one of the world's highest distributions of these 4 rare earth elements. We're about a percentage point higher grade than Linus, and we're almost 10% higher in these essential magnet feeds than is Mountain Pass MP Materials in California. In terms of our flow sheet, this is as standard as it gets in the rare earth element world, but I would draw your attention to the magnetic separation, where at that point we produce two separate concentrates, a high-grade rare earth element concentrate and, for free, a fluorspar concentrate. Now, fluorspar, you may or may not know, is also one of the critical strategic commodities on planet Earth right now. And our fluorspar byproduct, actually our fluorspar resource, is, we believe, the second largest fluorspar resource on planet Earth. And 5 years ago, we were approached by Glencore. 4 years ago, they encouraged us to sign a binding MOU with us. And at this moment, we are in the final stages of producing a representative sample of acid-grade fluorspar for delivery to Glencore. In terms of the rare earth element concentrate samples that have been requested, this is a partial list. Several companies are under NDA with us, but you can see some of the international players, Solvay, the world's biggest rare earth element company that's not Chinese, and then the ones from the United States. In terms of one of these, I would like to give a shout out to Energy Fuels because of their speed in transitioning their White Mesa Mill facility in Utah over to be a processor and producer of rare earth element concentrates. Commerce Resources is prioritizing the delivery of a sample of the Ashram rare earth element concentrate to Energy Fuels. This is a list of some of the capital that has been announced to be deployed by international governments. I'd like to draw your attention to the two companies at the bottom who have already received significant capital, because these are two of the companies that have requested a sample from Commerce Resources. In both of these cases, they were given capital to build out their manufacturing facility, but with essentially the caveat that they be processing non-Chinese feed. And so at the end of the day, they can have a facility up and running, but where are they getting feed from? They've made a sample request to Commerce. I'd also like to give a shout out to Jordan Roy Burns, whom I'm sure many of you in the gold world know and probably respect, because he does an extremely deep dive when he does his due diligence, and he has done this on the rare earth element sector and on Commerce Resources. I have not read his report on Commerce Resources, but I encourage you to seek that report and to subscribe to his newsletter. In terms of one of the charts that Jordan has been following, this would be the Van Eck Rare Earth Element ETF. And if you take a look at this chart, it has just broken out. Below that, you can see the chart for Commerce Resources. Not that dissimilar, excepting for the fact that we haven't broke out yet. Does someone say buy low, sell high? There you go. So in summary, the Ashram rare earth element and fluorspar deposit is the most standard type of deposit, a monazite dominant carbonatite. It has a huge resource. It's in a great jurisdiction. We can produce high-grade mineral concentrates. We released positive economics in 2012 without the addition of our fluorspar byproduct, and we do have a financing underway. I thank you very much for your time and attention today, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Fantastic, Chris. Yes, didn't I tell you, people, the man knows how to present. Fantastic job, really laying out the overall industry and what the specific opportunity is. You know, Chris, for a lot of investors that maybe aren't as intimately familiar with the REE space as you are, they might only know about Mountain Pass. I got a lot of news coverage. It didn't end up going that well at Mountain Pass. Can you maybe just meet that one head on for those that have any kind of lingering concerns? Just outline what went down at Mountain Pass, and is it indicative of projects in North America?
Mountain Pass benefited actually from the Chinese when they halted shipments of rare earth elements in the fall of 2010. It's the 10-year anniversary. You know, let's have a drink. And the prices went up as much as 3,000% almost overnight. Like literally in 4 or 5 months, dysprosium went from $90 a kilo to $3,000 a kilo. On the backs of those prices, Molycorp was able to raise, oh man, it's something like $3 billion. And they then tried to commercialize what was called the Phoenix Project, very poetic, rising from the ashes. And unfortunately for them, that process just did not work. And so in the falling prices, which only made sense, I mean, prices were unsustainably high, and Molycorp actually went bankrupt. But it is a good deposit for the current market. It is more dominated by the two rare earth elements that Vin Diesel wants to see because he needs to put gas in the tank of his Dodge Charger. It is not necessarily as well enriched with the magnet feeds as we are, as I pointed out in the presentation. So in terms of the current operation, MP Materials, it's a decent deposit right now. However, due to the previous management, the current operation still cannot process that material on site. So it is all shipped to China. And so their current goal, and I know some of them down there at MP Materials, is to actually finance the construction of a rare earth element processing facility. But that's what Energy Fuels just did and announced last week they were successful in doing. Does that give you a good idea?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because even the American government was heavily involved in that. Did they have an appetite to get back into the space as well?
Well, the U.S. government has, I believe, they announced giving a grant to MP Materials, then they took it back, and I think at this point in time, they've given it back to MP Materials. And so there are people in the U.S. government definitely who have an interest in having a domestic source of rare earth elements, and MP Materials is in operation, so they would be a good candidate for that. However, also, the $250 million under what is called the Defense Production Act, which was signed by the current president on October 1st, increasing that budget by a magnitude of 10. The Defense Production Act is very important because it means that Canadian companies are eligible for this capital. The DPA is the current iteration of what was called the Hyde Park Agreement, signed between Mackenzie King and FDR in 1941 before the Second World War entered the war, and it makes Canadian resources domestic in the eyes of the US government. So we're just as eligible for some of this $250 million.
Excellent. That's where I was going to go with it. So that's a key distinction. Now, you mentioned in the presentation about how mineralogy is really the key thing when you're talking about which of these REE deposits and projects are going to get off the ground. Is there other key factors on how investors can identify which are the projects that really have some legs, or is it all really just about that mineralogy aspect?
It's really all about the mineralogy, and tonnage and grade are important, but as is similar in the gold world, what would you rather have? A really high grade gold deposit that has almost, as a tiny resource, or would you rather have a copper gold disseminated project that has huge tonnage and good grades of gold? So that factor does appear in the rare earth element sector, but by far, the dominant issue is mineralogy. So as I said, over $1 billion, this is not my estimate, it's somebody else's estimate, has been spent on the R&D trying to process some of these other 150 minerals that can host rare earth elements, but so far as yet, there has been arguably no success in that. So again, mineralogy is absolutely key. And this is really different than any other commodity, excepting for, again, nickel, where, sure, there are laterite hosted nickel deposits in operation, but they're always in third world countries. You'd much rather have a massive sulfide. That issue is exponentially magnified in rare earth elements.
Right. Excellent putting it in those terms. We had a question there from the audience around financing. What's the strategy on financing? Anything in the works coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are currently working on a financing. I believe it is about half filled so far as yet. The goal of this financing is to allow us to restart the pilot plant, which is set up at Hazen Research in Colorado, and then to produce the sample that Energy Fuels has requested of us, and then to go down the list for the other processors that have requested samples from us. So we're certainly able to take in capital from anywhere. We've been listed on the Frankfurt Exchange since 2006. We've had an OTCQX listing on and off. But it's certainly available to anyone.
Okay. One last one around coal deposits. Is this something? Can you extract REEs from coal deposits?
Well, coal deposits. Yeah, coal deposits is a really good case in point. And ultimately, as much as it was great, the current president, signed the executive order increasing the capital under the DPA by 10 times. The other side of it is that, it brings to mind the space pen story, whether or not that's true or apocryphal. But ultimately, let's be really clear. Your average coal deposit has 200 to 300 parts per million rare earth elements. The Ashram has approximately 20,000 parts per million. So 2% as opposed to 0.02%. So the economics of, trying to produce rare earth elements from a coal deposit are, needless to say, exponentially more challenging. And the DOE, unfortunately, I believe, has been spending millions of dollars trying this, where I do believe this is has a political attraction, because, where are the coal deposits? West Virginia. Yeah. So yeah, nobody is so far as yet has made a coal deposit economic for rare earth elements.
Chris, what a timely time to have you join the Global Mining Symposium. Rare earths are going to be taking up more, I think, of the investor space and investor mental bandwidth going forward. There's so much intersection with national defense and political issues and regional supply chains. And you're right in the mix of all that complexity, which I know you're very comfortable in surfing through that complexity. So continued success to you. Look forward to great things coming in 2021. And thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks again, Tony.
Cheers. Bye-bye, Chris.
Bye-bye.